to Smith, left wing. Blows a tire. Leaping over him is Clayton with a great pass ahead. Here's a shot, a breakaway. A shot to the backhand. He scores! A short-handed goal. Roman Ashan. And we've got a new hockey game with 4:10 to play.
Roman Ashan brings this place to life.
He always wins in practice. That's what Trent Vogelhuber says, and here he is, a chance to win the game. The game on his stick. Butler swings wide left, cuts back, high slot, waiting, firing, he scores! It was the Butler in the third round with the dagger, and the Monsters win it in a shootout by a final of 2-1.
Yeah, and Butler confidently going towards that net, looking like a 50-goal scorer. Backhand to forehand, under the glove, and Monsters go home happy.
Welcome everyone to another edition of Monsters OT. We're presented by Century Federal here on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Tony Brown here with you. We'll hear from Brad Thiessen in just a minute. But what a dramatic finish on February the 28th as the Monsters defeated the Charlotte Checkers 2-1 in a shootout thanks to that late shorthanded goal from Roman Ashan. And of course, the shootout king himself, Cameron Butler, not to mention 44 saves from Jet Greaves. We'll talk about that in a minute. But a big show coming up in addition to headlines, which start the show as always. We're going to drop the mic today with Monsters video coach Mike Monty as he'll take us through the importance of playing in your own zone defensively. Then we'll see who's hot across the American Hockey League with Nick Blazer before we round things out with our Monsters alumni segment, which is presented by True North Convenience Stores. But as always, we start the show with headlines. As we welcome in Brad Thiessen here, let's talk headlines, and let's start with the guy who sparked that big win for the Monsters on February the 28th. That's Roman Ashan. He's got certainly a little extra to play for when he plays against the Charlotte Checkers. He was with them in training camp, but he's been great. A career year for him, career highs in a single season in goals and points, beating those totals from last year. So he's now up to 13 and 21 in those categories. Scoring shorthanded, he's been an important spark plug for the team, Brad.
He really has. I mean, you think about Roman and you think about his high energy play and a guy that draws a lot of penalties, but this year he's really added that offensive ability, and the Monsters have needed it for sure, and he's jumped in and done just such a good job in that area.
He really has been a great storyline throughout the season. Of course, not with the Monsters at the start, then signed a PTO. Then he just couldn't stop scoring goals for a while, so he earned himself an AHL contract, and now he's right back where he belongs, and that is as a key figure in the Monsters lineup. But let's keep things moving now on headlines and talk about the North Division standings, because we're at that time of the year, Brad, where the standings mean a whole heck of a lot every single day. So let's begin at the top with the Rochester Americans. They continue to play really well. 20 games over 500, 34, 14, 3-3, pacing the division. And they are officially, Brad, the team to beat in the North.
They are. They're such a well-rounded team. They got a lot of skill, good on the back end. Obviously, Devin Levi guarding the net for them, who's one of the best in the American Hockey League. So Rochester is a team, and the Monsters know it, going up against them so many times this year that they're going to be a tough out.
You're going to want to check the standings on a day-to-day basis here, Monster fans. But as they stand at the time of this taping, you've got Laval 3 points back in second place. Then Toronto, a 1-point cushion on Cleveland. For third place, the Monsters in fourth. Of course, it's the top, 5 teams that make the playoffs in the division. So a huge battle going on right now between Syracuse and Belleville. Right now, the Cuse have a 2-point lead on the Belleville Senators there for that final playoff spot. But long way to go. And let's talk for a moment about the Utica Comets, because after starting the season an unthinkable 0-13-0, the Comets are within 2 games of the 500 mark, and you can't rule them out.
No, you can't. They've done a great job just battling through, and they're not that far off right now because of the way that they stuck with it. And give credit to new coach Ryan Parent, former teammate of mine, who's done a nice job there. But Utica's really found themselves.
Yeah, so nothing is settled. That's the takeaway here in the North Division standings. But again, as we're driving towards the end of the season, important to see where the Monsters stack up as they look to return to the Calder Cup playoffs. Up next on Headlines, now let's talk about the remaining schedule for Cleveland. We're down to just 19 games left in the year, so let's look at who the Monsters have the rest of the way. 4 against the Texas Stars, a team that's leading the Central Division right now. Toronto 3 more times. We know Cleveland's been good against them this year, but still a very good team. Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Belleville, Hershey, Laval, Grand Rapids, Lehigh Valley, and yes, the Rochester Americans. The one thing about all the teams the Monsters will face the rest of the way, Brad, is that they're all in the playoff picture.
Yeah, there's no easy outs on that schedule. Sometimes you know, heading into the playoffs, you want to be battle tested, and the Monsters are going to earn their way there for sure.
That goes for this next bullet point on Headlines, as well as a milestone for Trent, picked up on the 28th of February in that game that we highlighted off the top of the show. His 100th career victory as an AHL head coach. Brad, that happened pretty quick. What does it say to you that he's been able to get to triple digits in the win column so quickly?
I think it just goes to show how much these players love playing for him. I think guys, really respect the way that he treats them, how he communicates with them. They always know where they stand. He was a player as well, so he knows how to really relate to those guys. So, that's an awesome accomplishment for him, and hopefully there's a lot more coming.
Yep, just the start for him, but certainly impressive in the midst of his 3rd season as head coach to get to 100 wins. Congratulations to Trent. That's something no one can ever take away from you. All right, up next on Headlines, Brad, let's talk about a situation the Monsters have faced over and over and over again this year. And yes, I'm talking about overtime. It's not a team record for a single season yet, but 19 games have gone to OT this season for Cleveland. That leads the league. They're top 5 in overtime wins, overtime losses, shootout losses too. But the record is 23 OT games. It happened twice in 21-22 and in 2014-15. But all this experience in overtime, it's sort of good, sort of bad. I mean, it prevents you from earning regulation wins, an important tiebreaker, but it also gets you ready for the pressure that comes at the end of the season.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of those overtime games have come when the Monsters have tied games late, where it's 6-on-5, power plays at the end of the game, coming up big in those clutch moments. And in playoffs, you're gonna be some games where you're gonna be behind. You're gonna have to scratch and claw for those games to maybe go overtime. So I think it really bodes well for them going down the stretch.
And of course, just a reminder for fans in the playoffs, of course, it's not 3-on-3 overtime. It's still 5-on-5, but it's still good to, feel the pressure of not only trying to score, but preventing goals in those situations. I'm sure from a goaltending perspective too, it's good to feel that feeling.
Yeah, it is, and you try not to let the pressure, the magnitude of the moment get you in those situations. Just worrying about stopping that next shot.
Let's talk about some upcoming promotions now for Cleveland as we round out Headlines here. So on the 7th and 8th of March, we've got a huge weekend coming up against the 2-time defending Calder Cup champion Hershey Bears. But key promotions, including our Women's History celebration on the 7th, and then Pucks and Paws. It's always fun. This is an important anniversary for Pucks and Paws, the 15th annual event, and I'm told there's going to be over 500 dogs. That's going to be a record in the building. Tease, I'm sure you played in a bunch of Pucks and Paws games. Do you notice the dogs when you're in net? Can that be distracting?
I don't know if it's distracting, but you can hear them every once in a while during stoppages of play and things like that. So it's always a fun day to see all the dogs in the stands.
Yeah, for sure. So we encourage everyone to get your human tickets and your dog tickets and tickets to all the rest of the Monsters home games the rest of the way at clevelandmonsters.com. Both of those games are going to feature the Monsters food drive presented by Trusted Sec, and also both games we'll bring them to you live on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Well, that'll do it for Headlines. We'll take a break now. When we come back, plenty more Monsters OT ahead, including Dropping the Mic with Monsters video coach Mike Monty. Plenty more show after this short break. Stay with us. It's Monsters OT, presented by Century Federal on Rock Entertainment Sports Network.
Welcome back to Monsters OT. I'm Brad Thiessen. Pleased to be joined by Monsters video coach Mike Monty for Dropping the Mic. Mike, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. So last time we talked about the importance of getting to the net if you want to score goals. Today we're going to talk about the importance of defending the net front area if you want to prevent goals. So last episode we talked about where goals are typically scored from, and we used this exact diagram to show where shots are typically taken from. Now, if we're talking about defending, taking the flip side of this diagram, we want to protect this area that we typically call the scoring area. in our defensive zone coverage schemes, and it's important for us to really focus on this if we want to prevent goals from being scored. So we'll roll into the first clip here, and we'll show you what that looks like. So you can see this area right here, the scoring area outlined in red. We know that any shots, any rebounds, any deflections, any screens in this area dramatically increase the chances of a shot resulting in a goal. So step one for us is in our coverage, we have to be tight to our men. Roll it here. So you can see here we're doing a really good job of being tight to our opponent. And the reason we want to do this is we want to eliminate time and space. Eliminating time and space hopefully results in no shot even being taken because they don't have the opportunity, the creativity, the time to really set up and do what they want to do. So being tight in our coverage is our first step and our first key in making sure that we prevent goals from being scored. And as we roll it here, step two is taking care of the net front. As you can see here, our two players, Owen Sillinger and Madison Bowie, are doing a great job of what we call boxing out. Boxing out is so important because we eliminate any screens, we eliminate any free sticks for deflections, we eliminate any possibilities of rebounds by doing this. And from a goalie's perspective, Brad, would like to hear what your perspective is on boxing out.
Yeah, what it also does is it allows the goalie to have a clear view of that shot that's coming from the point. So anytime that there's guys in front of a goalie's eyes, taking his eyes away, sticks, deflections, that dramatically makes it more difficult to make the save. Here you can see the Monsters doing a good job, giving Jet a free look at that shot from the point.
Awesome. Roll it here to the next clip, please. And building on Brad's point, you can see here we're doing a great job of boxing out, keeping Jet's eyes clear. He's got a clear sight line to the puck, which is up near the tops of the circles with the Rochester forward here. And again, this gives him the confidence and the poise to make a routine save. He doesn't have to worry about looking over a player or looking through a player to see where the puck is. He doesn't have to worry about really any loose pucks being left and for a rebound. Again, it gives him the confidence and the poise to make the routine save, to make a clean play, and to go from there. Now, as this play rolls on, roll the clip here. You can see we do a great job, again, of reestablishing those tight gaps to our players. Right here. And again, the box out. You can see it starts early, almost at the bottoms of the circle. Sammy Nasco has identified his man, and he's staying between the net and his man to make sure that the lane is clear for Jet to make the save, and that, again, there's no rebounds or scrambles in front of the net. And again, as this clip rolls on, you can see we do a great job of closing this down and neutralizing this from being any chance of high danger chance of going in the net. Next clip here. Protecting this area of the ice, there's a willingness and a mentality that you have to be successful. It's not an easy job. Sometimes it's not the prettiest job, but it's what makes or breaks teams, especially at this part of the year, getting into the playoffs and so far. And as we roll this clip here, you can see now, this is not an easy job for Stan Svozil and Corson Kuhlmans, but you can just tell how important and valuable this is by the calmness in Jet and his ability to make the save. And as we roll it through here, again, routine save, no worries. We do a great job of neutralizing this from being a potential scoring threat. And last clip here, please. Again, from our most recent game with Milwaukee. It's not always pretty. It's not always picture perfect. It's not always the way that we draw it up. You can see here Milwaukee goes low to high. Their defenseman has the puck, and he's going to try and deliver it to the net. And as we roll it a little bit here, you can see we're doing a pretty good job of identifying our men. We're tight to our players, but you can see here Corson Kuhlmans is perhaps a little bit later than he'd like to be in terms of defending. And this is where a little bit of instinct and desperation has to come into play. He's not there to be able to box out his man, so as this clip rolls on, knowing that he's not going to be able to get there, you can see he does a great job of neutralizing the threat by lifting his stick, again, taking away any opportunities for deflection or a redirect or anything in that area that can be dangerous. But again, sometimes your instinct and your willingness to have to do the hard things has to take over in these manners, and he does a great job here showing that.
Yeah, it's a great picture here showing just how important the defensive end is. The teams that are the best at the end of the year are usually the teams that are the best in this area of the ice, so it's great to see how the Monsters go about doing that. So thanks for showing us, Mike.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it, Mike. That's dropping the mic, and we'll be back with more Monsters OT right after this.
Welcome back, everybody, on Monsters OT, presented by Century Federal here on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Tony Brown back with you here. A lot coming up, including our Monsters alumni segment presented by True North Convenience Stores. But right now, it's time to see who's hot across the American Hockey League with the Monsters digital content coordinator, the one, the only, Nick Blazer. Nick?
All right, appreciate it, Tony. Welcome everyone to another segment of Who's Hot around the American Hockey League. I'm Nick Blazer. Diving right into things with the Atlantic Division, it'll be the Springfield Thunderbirds within their last 10 games, a 6-2, 0-2 record. On top of that, a 5-game point streak as they are 4-0-0-1 within their last 5 games played. Currently sitting in 6th place in the Atlantic Division, 10th in the Eastern Conference at a record of 27-19-2-4, good for 60 points, in trailing the Lehigh Valley Phantoms by 3 points in the conference. Their player to watch will be Matthew Pekka, the forward 6-game goal streak dating back to February 15th. He is the leading scorer on the Thunderbird squad at 23 goals this season. On to the North Division now, the Rochester Americans, currently on a 10-game point streak, 6-0-2-2 within that stretch. That dates back to February 19th. Their player to watch, goaltender Devin Levi. Last 4 games played, 2 shutouts there for the young goaltender, and a .963 save percentage on top of a 1.25 goals against average in that stretch. For the 4th best goals against average in the entire American Hockey League at 2.19, and the 5th best save percentage at .919. He's already surpassed last year's playing time by over 100 minutes, still with 20 games left in their regular season. Diving right into the Central Division now will be the Texas Stars within their last 10 games, a 7-3 record, a 3-game win streak currently running that dated back to February 26th, a 5-2 win over the Grand Rapids Griffins there on the road. Currently sitting in 1st place in that Central Division, 4th in the Western Conference at 31-17-3 on the year for 65 points, and they are currently tied with the Ontario Reign in the conference. Their player to watch, Matej Blumel, the forward, 9 points in the last 4 games played, 3 goals and 6 assists under his belt there with a +5 rating. That started back in a 6-4 loss to the Grand Rapids Griffins in the first game of their 2-game series back on February 25th. He is the team's point leader at 51 points with 26 goals and 25 assists, and he is 2nd in the American Hockey League, only trailing San Jose's Andrew Paturalski. On to the Pacific Division now will be the Coachella Valley Firebirds. They come in their last 10 games, a 7-3 record, their most recent win coming in 6-5 regulation fashion over San Diego. Currently sitting in 3rd place in the Pacific Division and 3rd place in the Western Conference standings at an impressive 30-18-1-5. Good for 66 points on the season. And we've talked all year about the Pacific Division being extremely tight there. That top half, even tighter than ever, just 3 points differentiate the top-seeded Colorado Eagles and the 6th place Milwaukee Admirals. So a lot can happen here within these last 20 or so regular season games heading into the Calder Cup playoffs. Their player to watch will be Daniel Sprong, the forward, 11 points in his last 7 games played, 3 goals and 8 assists for the forward, dating back to the beginning of February, a 1.29 points per game, team leading there through just 17 games played, as he has not been with the club for too long, but has been very, very impressive with 23 points in those 17 games played. Well, that'll do it for another edition of Who's Hot around the American Hockey League. I'm Nick Blazer. Thank you for joining me. We're going to throw it back to Tony with more Monsters OT.
Well, thanks again, Nick. Great job as always. That was Who's Hot across the American Hockey League. Now time for a short break. When we come back, though, we remember one of the Monsters' all-time greats with our Monsters alumni segment presented by True North. That's next. Stay with us. It's Monsters OT, brought to you by Century Federal, only on The Rock. Back back one last time on Monsters OT, presented by Century Federal. It's time now for our Monsters Alumni segment, brought to you by True North Convenience Stores. Brad Thiessen's back with me here. Tony Brown with you on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Thies, let's talk about T.J. Hensick, one of the great playmakers in the early era of, at the time, Lake Erie Monsters hockey, but a great career for a guy that stuck around over 10 years, I think 12 seasons in the American Hockey League, top 5 in Monsters history in points and assists, and he still holds the Monsters single-season assist record, dished out 50 dimes in 2009-2010. So a great player who, like we said, played for a bunch of teams in this league and made a big impression over the course of his successful career.
Yeah, he really did. He played his college career at Michigan. I got my first college win against him in a stacked Michigan team, so that's where I remember him the most. But great, prolific scorer in the American Hockey League. Always someone that you have to be aware of when you're going in to play against him. Real smart player.
Yeah, he played for the Monsters, for Peoria, for Hartford, for the Hamilton Bulldogs, for Charlotte, for Utica, for the Ontario Reign, and for the San Jose Barracuda. So a big, long AHL career. Also parts of 4 seasons in the NHL with Colorado and St. Louis. And he's currently an assistant coach back at Howell High School in Michigan, where he grew up. So T.J. Hensick, one of the greats. He is our Monsters Alumni Spotlight today. And again, thanks to our friends at True North Convenience Stores for that. Fast, friendly, clean. Well, that'll do it for another edition of Monsters OT. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank yous to hand out, of course, to Leo Simone, to Jeremy Hawks, and the rest of our outstanding crew. Thanks to Mike Monty. Thanks, of course, to Nick Blazer. For Brad Thiessen, I'm Tony Brown. Thanks to Century Federal and, of course, True North. And most of all, thanks to you for watching. This has been Monsters OT. We'll talk to you next time, only here on Rock Entertainment Sports Network.